Ladies and gentlemen, the second panel discussion is about to begin, and the topic is Data and Tech, core ingredient for scaling the AI-driven bank of the future. This session will explore how data and technology together are enabling AI at scale in banking. May I now invite the esteemed panelists to kindly join us on stage for the panel discussion. Mr. Vikrant Sabharwal, Director, Business Development Asia, Middle East and Africa, TSYS. Mr. Sanjay Vinayak Mudliar, Executive Director, Bank of Baroda. Mr. Mukesh Deshpande, Partner, Data and AI, PwC. Mr. Anjani Rathore, Group Head, Digital and Customer Experience, HDFC Bank. Mr. Balaji Rajgopalan, Chief Technology Officer, State Bank of India. Mr. Manoj Singodia, Managing Director and Lead Financial Services, Accenture. And our moderator for this session, Mr. Anshul Verma, Partner, McKinsey & Company. Welcome everyone. Over to you, sir.
Thank you everyone for joining us. This is a panel discussion on AI at scale, and all of us have been on this journey to embed AI into our business processes, how to understand that, how we can gain value from it. Data and technology is the core foundation of it. Together on this stage today, we have decades of experience of colleagues who have been in the trenches, who have been there to learn, to fail, and to succeed as well. We will talk about all aspects of data and technology, not just the core part of getting the data and using it to build models, but everything else that helps you think through and how do we get value from AI at enterprise scale, at the scale that will actually have meaningful value to your bottom line. Thank you so much for coming in, and I'll actually get started, Anjani, with you. In terms of scaling AI, everything needs to start from value and from a customer focus. What has been your experience specifically in terms of customer experience, in terms of what would be some of the stories that you would have learned and actually made sure that your bank actually succeeds in AI? And essentially, what differentiates a bank that's scaling AI and bank that is not scaling AI?
That's a lot of question. You know, to make any kind of a program successful, there are several pieces, especially in delivering an AI program. The first one is about getting the data, which is more focused on accurate data and timely availability of data. Now this comes in if the core systems are equipped to handle that kind of load and timeliness. So some information is needed on a real-time basis, some is needed end of day, some could be needed end of month, but all this is food for AI, and we need to ensure that our core systems are, you know, plumbed rightly to deliver the right kind of data to the systems. The second piece, which is very important again, is that we need to do process re-engineering work. Just replicating what is already existing is not going to make a big amount of impact. So we need to revisit, is the process going to work rightly, or do we need to change? Because frankly, a lot of processes which are available today is ripe for change for multiple reasons. First, the regulation itself has changed. It has become a lot more liberal. It allows us to do certain things which was not possible 20 years ago. So regulation has changed, technology has changed. Some things which were not feasible earlier is now doable. So we need to look at the entire process which is existing to deliver this kind of a program and redo it if needed. And this finally takes the shape of a orchestration engine for workflow, because whatever processes we agree on will finally take shape of a workflow engine. And then lastly, it's about the front end which is visible to a banker, or a front end which is visible to a customer, and that is the determinant of experience. If all these three pieces fall in together, then we've seen that adoption happens much faster and much better. You don't have to push for adoption. And I'll take a couple of examples here. You know, we tried to implement AI-enabled CQR, which is a customer query resolution and complaints. And So the first thing which was needed here was to pull the data together. CQR is something where customer might walk into any of the channels, any of the branches and ask for any support. Let's say it's a complaint. One has to go and pull the data on a real time basis, and that can come in from any of the core systems. It could be a credit card system, it could be a liability system, it could be a loan management system. That data has to come in and answer the query that the customer has, and it has to be pushed back to the agent or to the customer in their own language in a manner which is better understood. All these three pieces, if it falls together, then we see that the adoption is much easier. Otherwise, it takes a lot of effort to push for adoption, and that is one big difference we've seen, that if we go in for any one piece itself, then it becomes a POC. If we put all the three pieces together, then it scales up much faster.
That makes perfect sense, and therefore need to take an end-to-end view, be end user backed, look at the front end, the data, the back end itself, and then focus on adoption. If I just move ahead on and take this as a cue for the next question itself, Balaji, I'll go to you. If we start looking at under the hood, how do you think about prioritizing where to start? How do you think about, at SBI scale, what technology and what needs to be worked upon that enterprise technology itself? Give some examples, please.
Thank you, Anshul. See, AI, I think you should start with the purpose-driven. Anything you invest, I think you should look at the value creation. Any large legacy bank has a different tech stack. So to start with, when we talk about value creation, what are your business goals? Fundamentally, every bank is expected to improve the customer experience, overall efficiency for the bank. That's a primary intent of every bank, and that's a competition among every bank. Every bank offers the same similar product, but how do you offer in different SLAs, metrics, makes the differentiation. So value creation, as I mentioned, customer experience, overall efficiency for the bank. Starting from low cost acquisition and throughout the life cycle, how do you have a better service with a low cost of back office operations. Before we think about AI, what's your infrastructure tech stack? What's your application tech stack? So modernization of infrastructure and application is the first prerequisite, I would say. Second, data architecture, a real-time, event-driven architecture platform, which also means whether your infrastructure applications are modernized, are they system-oriented, re-engineered. Third one is on the governance throughout the life cycle. So let me explain on the application part of it. Are we having the proper system engineering? Anjani mentioned about process optimization. So do I have proper segregation of applications? System of channels, system of engagement, system of records, system of federation for APIs, system of intelligence. If you don't have this classification, if you don't do the re-engineering of applications, you can't be interoperable with fintechs, you can't be interoperable with the EXPO systems of the bank. It's not just standalone applications or integrations within your own bank. Are you interoperable with the ecosystem? Partner collaboration, fintech collaboration, and ecosystem collaboration is the key success for improving the overall efficiency and customer service. Building APIs throughout the product lifecycle from onboarding to closure of a product will ensure scalability and instant fulfillment of customer service. Customer expects instant. When it comes to data part of it, bank have rich data of internal and external data. Are we monetizing that? Starting from persona builders for proper customer segmentation, looking at the signals of various business behavior metrics or user behavior metrics. Are we doing the proper preference to the customer rather than force filling? Every customer is very unique. Instead of just looking at mere similar customer segment of gold, silver, platinum, am I looking at the current need of the customer? So data is going to be very crucial. Your real-time data, sourcing of information, instantly giving it the decision-making data is very crucial. And the third one which you talk about is the governance part. Governance throughout the life cycle, starting from zero trust architecture, process, tools, policies, with DPDP coming into place, data security, your cyber security posture, governance in all dimensions. Thank you.
And Balaji, if I just extend the point that you mentioned, what could be those 1 or 2 changes in the enterprise stack that you would think that needs to be done from the digital world as we move towards an agentic AI world? Is it building better trust in data, upgrading from an identity and access management? How should other banks also think about their core infrastructure? What could be that one change that you would propose should be done today, here and now?
So as I mentioned, especially application, your core bankings have been meant for branches. We have tweaked it to handle the digitization. Are they meant for really a system of records? So you shift your onboarding process, your servicing process, maker, checker, scrutiny of various departments should shift away from the main core systems. Do we have scalable microservices? No end of day, no end of patches. Channel is 24/7, which is already being working on. No more channel to have a reposting, core banking to have a reposting. So some of the fundamentals are all re-architecting of system engineering, which I mentioned. And zero trust architecture, I remember HashiCorp, David Mills talking about, we are moving to human, non-human identifiers, integrators. More than the humans, the number of servers, hoppings which happens. A zero trust architecture principles is going to be extremely crucial. How do we handle so many hoppings which has authentication, context and authorization?
Makes sense. And therefore, there is this drastic change in terms of how we need to think about our architecture should enable AI. And you talked about trust specifically, therefore, that how do we trust the new set of AI agents, processes that are being built now. And Mukesh, I'll go on this topic and take that as a segue for you. You've seen organizations, banks actually on this journey who are starting as well and who are mature as well. How do we think about trust within our AI stack altogether? Trust at a data level, trust at an enterprise technology level. What should be thought about? How should we think about it?
So I would say start experimentations with startups. Before you think big on AI, banks should do experimentation with AIs. You should know how to assemble components. You should know every component. As I mentioned, every layer has an intent. You can't mix those layers, which I mentioned about different layers. Do some POCs, experimentations with various small fintechs, get those learnings, then you think next level. You can't get into enterprise capabilities before even having experimented. People should know how to use. At the same time, think about the value creation. What is the current IT landscape of the bank? Where does it stand? Every legacy bank, every bank, even the new banks for that matter, the IT landscape varies. Do an assessment of your IT landscape.
Makes sense.
Plug in the gaps which I mentioned. At the same time, do experimentations of small areas like document diligence can be one focus area. Conversation AI, everybody has multiple chatbots. It is only for FAQs. But can I have a conversation which is common for the bank? When I log into internet banking, mobile app, or when I walk into a branch, the customer service should be same.
Yeah.
I've asked saying that what is my housing loan? Next time I should, when I log into other alternate channel or walk into a branch, I should be served saying that, hey, you have asked for a housing loan interest, you have a pre-approved offer of 1 crore, and these are the things. And if I pass only 3 variables, customer entity, product which I'm interested, and the mode in which I want to contact, that is contextual based customer service. Rather than force fitting and calling, everybody gets irritated with getting calls. Yeah. So are we passing 3-4 minimal data to your circles, your business teams? I am in need of a registration of a housing loan, which means I'm in a need. I need to submit my documents. As a customer, my job is to submit my documents. Imagine that time somebody reaches me a WhatsApp. That's what I want as a customer.
Makes sense. Lots of actually points to think about, but do POCs to gain experience. Mukesh, if I come to you specifically on this topic, on your experience as well.
Let me put it in 2 or 3 parts. Right. First of all, with this entire movement of adopting AI and analytics has kind of opened up the entire data landscape within the bank to be utilized, right? I mean, at any point in time, if you really analyze your IT, there must be 100+ applications, and I'm almost 40-50% of those applications must be data generation applications. Now, in that case, I think it is very important to see that where all data is coming, what kind of data is coming, and are we giving a unified platform for the data which is coming from the relational sources, from the lot of documents that bank has, so unstructured data coming, and maybe a semi-structured data which is your transactional protocols and all of that data coming. Are we providing a unified platform to that, right? Because then that gives me a kind of conformance saying all data is there at one place, can be audited at any point in time, can be looked at any point in time. That's point one. Point two, then we are talking about the creation of an enterprise data repository, and an extension to that is basically the feature repository. Because the entire AI platform, the models, analytical models now work on the feature repository. So how that data is flowing into that? Do we have a lineage? Do we have the quality reports of that particular data? Are we using the right data? Are our masters appropriately synthesized? Because at any point in time in your feature store or your data repository, if your master itself have a duplication of data, incomplete data, half data, then your AI model is going to behave appropriately. I mean, their performance will be bad. So the entire master data management, data quality report, the lineage, the flow of it, I think those are the tools, technologies which are important, needs to be there, and should be able to provide you outcome which is in sync with what is happening in the bank, in a production environment at any point in time. So that's one part of it. Second part of it is, let's look at the model part of it. Now you have multiple models, you would have done a POC pilot, now you're scaling it up to the multiple areas, multiple functions. So how these models are behaving? Do you have a champion challenger model, whether a particular LLM, whatever outcome it is giving, do you have another LLM in your pre-prod environment which is also producing the similar outcome, right? That's another way to ensure that your outcome provided are consistent, are trustworthy. What is the health of those models? What kind of error rates that you are getting? So that's another part where the entire trust mechanism works, the framework works. And while we all are doing, I think your question was more in terms of when you're scaling it up, how do you ensure that you bring in efficiency there? Yeah. So most of these things now should be automated, should be embedded within. You should not do that as a one separate scenario. When the data is flowing, then and there itself you should generate the lineage. Then and there itself you should have a quality report getting generated. So I think these are certain things that needs to be inbuilt, needs to be part of your AI pilot to scale up program itself, which will allow you to build that trust, which will allow you to answer any question. If regulator is coming and asking why this particular question, the decision for a particular customer, you should be able to show that the entire flow from where the data started, what decisions you took, how the model performed, what kind of decision tree was made. You should be able to demonstrate that in a way.
And practically, our regulator asks exactly that question.
Correct.
We need to be in a position to.
And I mean, the only point quickly to cover that, every time somebody asks a question, we should not assemble a team of 5-10 people saying, go back to the data and start searching why we took that decision. All this has to be embedded into your day-to-day process so that these reports are readily available to prove why you made a particular decision. So I think that's the important aspect of setting this up.
Makes sense. And you extended Balaji's point on fundamentally rethinking about our enterprise technology to focusing deeply on data, to the models, and then using governance as a permission to scale.
Correct.
Right. And therefore, our shared infrastructure that RBI provides, that other participants provide, actually becomes also a core point, which is where, Sanjay, I want to go to you once. As part of Bank of Baroda, your scale, both within India, outside of India as well, we are fairly ahead in terms of our financial infrastructure, but we have our own problems as well. And how do you think about what has been your experience about scaling AI, especially about using our shared infrastructure from NPCI, from RBI, from IFTAS, all of those?
Yeah, so good morning to everybody, and thank you, Anshul, for this question. So I'll start like this. See, most of the banks who are here and the other banks also, they have been doing lot of POCs. POCs are related to normal customer service, to a fraud risk management, to some kind of a channel management, some forecasting, some models and all have been developed over a period of time. But the challenge which actually comes up is when you start scaling it up or putting it as an enterprise level, and that is where the issue starts coming up. So, a couple of things which we in Bank of Baroda has observed, and then probably I will come to the shared part of it, how exactly that will help. So, when we have started, we have been working on various AI projects for last 3.5 years time, and what we are seeing it is as a POC, it looks good, it works well, it serves the purpose for which it has been decided. But when you start scaling up within the organization, say within India and outside India also for us, we find it difficult because the data quality for a bank having a legacy of 100+ year finds it very difficult to scale it up, number one. Number 2 point which comes in is whenever you require a solution, it has to get integrated with the ecosystem. Unless it gets an ecosystem, it does not give the value which we are looking for. So, in case if it has to get interfaced with the ecosystem, any kind of a government entity or otherwise, we find it very difficult because the bespoke, you have to develop the connectors once again, you have to start working on each one implementation as a separate project. So, the time taken for completion of this thing becomes very kind of a stretched, and as a result of that, the output which is there and the enthusiasm which comes in gets kind of diluted. So, looking into this, now coming back to your question of whether the shared services available through NPCI, through Rebate, through IFTAS, all these things and all, I personally feel it is absolutely essential for few reasons. Number one is when you are thinking of scaling it up, you require an ecosystem to work. Then only the value creation will happen, then only the kind of the POC to move into a production level of real sense will happen. So, now how exactly that will happen? If you take example of a NPCI, if I am taking it, they are handling multiple kind of thousands of transactions happening every second, every minute for on the payment side. They are the resources which can provide us lot of insights about the customer behavior, the standardization of the processes which they have adopted for getting into the payment system piece. Similarly, if you see it for Rebate or IFTAS for that matter, being their background, obviously they will be the ones who can provide us an option of the governance model which should be there, the security infrastructure should have been created. And the advantage of each one of them thing comes like this: when you are trying to interface with them, you are now coming out with a templated format which should be something which the banks can adopt. So, the adoption becomes faster. The smaller banks who have not been able to or the entities who are not able to kind of develop certain things on their own, probably they will be fast forwarded and they will be the ones who will be also able to interface it better and faster. The other elements which comes in the standardization which happens as because of these things and all, the sharing of the information and the success and failure also gets across when you are working in this kind of an ecosystem. The talent which is again an area of concern, probably that also can get addressed to a good extent by sharing the information, and other things probably that will get addressed. So, in my opinion, if you have to move from a POC to a actual production kind of a setup, probably these kind of a ecosystem will play a major role going forward. That is what is my view.
Makes sense. And Sanjay, if I pick up your point and expand the broader ecosystem itself, Vikrant, I'll come to you this time. And as an ecosystem partner who has been in banking purely serving multiple banks, what has been your experience specifically? And if you could expand this wider ecosystem, talk about interoperability. Sanjay touched upon it as well. Integration, our ability to have an open architecture. I think that would be another angle for our participants to learn about.
Sure. Thanks, Anshul. And again, integration is sort of key over here. Yeah. Now, as far as payments go, payments are not in a separate monolith or in an island by itself, but it is all, like we said, part of an ecosystem. Now, the driving force over here is the end customer, right? Now, the customer is having more and more ways to pay, to make payments, to sort of complete their transactions. So, we've again seen that digital payments now far outstrip, let's say, the physical payments, right? There are also, if you look at the horizon, things like virtual payments coming up, right? There is also, since this is an AI event and the theme of the event is AI, there is also talk of, let's say, AI agents coming in and making payments on behalf of the customers, yeah, the routine payments over there. Now, what is going to drive all these payments and these technologies is essentially data, right? So again, availability of data and availability of data in real time, right? So that is one key point. The other thing that we have again seen is that for interoperability, the integration piece is what is required. Now, ecosystem partners over here, again, there are of various sizes, there are various scales. We've also seen that banks and fintechs are having a very strong partnership. Fintechs are now coming in and providing in certain niche segments which help, let's say, enrich the entire customer experience, and banks are partnering with them. But when it comes to integration, the typical, let's say, the scenario which we see is that maybe the fintech will come in, let's say, with something which is a cool technology, something which they claim can, let's say, has a very quick speed to market in a 3 months to 6 month period of time. There are POCs which are proposed, but on the back end, the banks again, if they are having, let's say, legacy issues, if their core platforms, like again Anjani mentioned, are let's say not able to talk in, or let's say communicate with these newer technologies, so then that integration becomes very difficult. So again, there are now technologies available, cloud adoption is sort of coming in, there are now processors, or there are now core platform providers who are offering core platforms like card management in the cloud, which enable this faster integration through RESTful APIs, through API integration, through things like data streaming, data events, wherein you can create an entire digital journey based on this integration, and also, let's say, extend your authorization workflows, build in contextual commerce. Again, we've seen how open banking principles have led to, let's say, embedded finance. So bringing in more and more people, and let's say banks' ability to break, let's say, their entire offering and offer it as a microservice on a third-party platform. Now, if, let's say, someone comes to you on a tech provider basis and say that please enable this functionality or this capability in a very short period of time, is the way forward that the banks have their own legacy infrastructure, they make their changes by themselves, they have a huge team of people who does all the development and sort of integrate, which may take again a lot of time. There will be other priorities, there will be other projects which are there. So is this integration which will actually see light? Will it actually fructify the end business need or the objective that was there in place, or it would sort of get pushed back or pushed behind? So again, the technology part comes in over here. If a cloud provider, or if, let's say, a core platform provider is able to offer his service in the cloud, if he is also able to, let's say, segment his entire offering into containers and microservices, so that if, let's say, a change needs to be made, it doesn't have to change the entire system, but just a small part of it which can be changed quickly, which can be integrated through APIs, through Kafka event streamings, things like that. So they again enable the infrastructure. So again, two things over here, both data and technology. So real-time availability of data and technology will, in a sense, lead to this interoperability, which will in effect help us serve the customer better.
So integration brings this ecosystem together. The data flows within it needs to be reliable. We talked about that point as well. Interoperability brings standardization. If I just request you for one more sentence as well, in terms of when we do integration and look at interoperability, when we hit the ground, what is one execution challenge that you would have seen banks struggle with, and therefore what would you suggest them to do as of today?
So again, I'll borrow from the comments made by the earlier panelist on how planning is essential. Yeah. So typically, when we talk about interoperability and integration, we focus too much, let's say, on the technology, on the process, yeah, on the how, but not the why, on the why, right? So if we get the why correct, again, those three components that were mentioned earlier, if we get those correct or those in place, then this thing can become a success, and we are able to drive this at scale, and we are able to get again the scale that we talked about, the adoption that we talked about, where again, let's say, as a technology provider, we can provide the service on, let's say, a cloud model, which will also enable you to scale up, automate the scaling technology, also test. So again, for any integration, it's again how much you test. So you can again use cloud automation tools to test and get the results right. But technology is an enabler. It should not become an inhibitor in this kind of a way. So yeah, I mean, the planning, the why, if that is there in place, then yes, this can definitely scale up.
Makes sense. And Vikrant, really, what you're saying is that there is a shift that's also needed in mindset. And I will take that as a cue to go to you, Manoj. And talking about this software aspect of scaling AI, what's the shift in mindset? How do we think about culture? How do we make it as an enterprise strength rather than just another activity to do?
Yeah, thank you, Anshul. I think all of what we have spoken about are the real challenges we have when you go into execution. But I think basis what we have experienced, we have observed, the biggest impact on scaling AI largely comes from mindset and to thinking. And that is to say, as an organization, how strategic you want to be on this technology, how willing and open are you going to be about it. And you see this playing out in the market. There are lots of organizations today who are still stuck in pilots, and there are others who have started realizing value. And the difference is largely around the thinking and the approach, how they go on about it, right? You look at any global organization or any bank where they've got enterprise rollout going on at the moment, and you would observe at the top of the organization, whether it's their board or their leadership team, they had a real sense of conviction about this technology is not something which we have seen in the past. It is so disruptive and it is so transformational, it can actually lend you a lot of differentiation in just how you operate your business, right? In terms of how you go to your customers, how you serve your customers, just the, in terms of how you innovate, how you think about products and products. So I think the mindset is really what's driving, I would say, the scale part of it. We ran a research, which is global research, and again, it was just really focused on identifying what is it that leading organizations are doing which is getting them success. And this was a global study across industries, including India. And one thing which came out of that was each of these organizations had a very clear transformation purpose for their AI programs. So they knew what they want to do with it, right? And with that, I think they could leverage the power of AI to actually reinvent the businesses, reinvent the processes, reinvent the functions. And then to say, look, if these are my critical functions and domains, I'll prioritize them and look at how do we then start to track value within those. So I would say it just starts from the top. You give that Philip at the top to say, look, we are going to adopt this in a very holistic manner and embrace AI and put that in the middle of everything what we do. But that's not going to happen without reinvention. I think that's the clear part of it, right? So start at the very top and look at which domains to go after, which processes to go after, and then go down to the lowest level. But then, yeah, start at the top, and I think that's where I would say mindset is what I think is the differentiating factor in all of this.
Perfect, perfect. If I wrap all the key messages together, and as we close this session itself, Anjani, we started with you. You talked about the importance of being user-backed, thinking about end-to-end, and using that as an opportunity to reimagine our business processes. It's important that when we actually do AI at scale, we actually reimagine the way we are actually working upon. It might be a similar cycle from 10 years back, but it's something that's necessary today because we can't really just continue to be in the way we have been operating until now. And post that, Balaji, you talked about the importance of enterprise technology. You talked about doing POCs to build that learning itself. You talked also about the fact that when we talk about enterprise technology, there are so many aspects to actually look at, from security of it to scalability of the platforms, and then fundamentally also looking at the platforms to enable the reimagined processes, right? And Mukesh, you extended that point on risk and governance, and therefore using governance, whether it is at a data level or at a model level, as our main permission to scale up. We also talked about our shared infrastructure that acts as a force multiplier. Sanjay, you talked about that and how we can utilize it. And then the power of ecosystem that we have, that we are present in as well, to make sure that we are standardizing, learning from our ecosystem, and therefore being ready to scale up. And then Manoj, you finally talked about the mindset piece, the culture piece. We need to start from the top with a purpose for the organization to come behind and then actually work upon it. We have 2 minutes left on the discussion, and if I just use that 2 minutes for going across the panel with one question only, which is, if there was one data or technology bet that you would suggest for our participants to take away from this discussion, what would that be? Anjani, I'll start with you.
I would say just think end to end, from customer to the core, and then design the solution. That is what will make a big difference.
Great. Balaji?
Yeah, look at every business department, look at their problem statement. By and large, digitize, decongest your back office operations is a mantra. So look at retail banking, commercial banking, look at government business, look at every business department and solve these problems. Take those unique use cases instead of taking everything at the bank. Solve those problems. For example, if I need to look at onboarding of a customer, a negative customer list of facial recognition is being done. Building this as a unique capability is good enough instead of thinking everything all in one box.
Got it. Mukesh?
So from implementation, scale and adoption perspective, I feel a robust, comprehensive, governed data store, enterprise-wide data store, and equally governed feature store is what is core to it, is what I feel.
Got it. Sanjay?
Yeah, so I will also go with the same thing. See, our unified data with a cleaned up data and a kind of having a proper lineage on that particular thing is something which is absolutely essential. And obviously, we should be carrying forward the POCs which we are doing it going forward.
Got it. Vikrant?
Again, it would be leverage cloud for scale, resiliency, not only that, but also as differentiation, utilize the power, the technology which things like APIs with event streamings gives you in terms of integration and interoperability. Yeah.
Got it. And Manoj?
Yeah, I would say the operating model. I think how humans work with the agents, and then how can you treat them as your digital co-workers with the same level of entitlements, controls. That's what I would say.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for your time. We close the panel now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for following the timelines, and a big thank you to our moderator and the esteemed panelists for an engaging and thought-provoking discussion on the topic of data and tech. May I request you to kindly come forward for a group photograph onto the center, please. Thank you very much, sirs.